Sunday. The morning is initially promising, though still cold. Thank heavens it is not raining. So many of my childhood seaside memories are composed of wet Sundays. I have an acquaintance whose recollections of his own childhood holidays are composed of sitting, perhaps consuming a Knickerbocker glory, in the family car while watching the sea dash back and forth through the vehicle's window wipers. After breakfast, I venture left out of the hotel and soon spot a family with 2 young children frolicking along the sands beneath a triangle of blue sky, soon to be obliterated by darkening clouds. After walking over the swing bridge crossing the shipping canal, I enter the town and come face to face with more of Lowestoft's bleaker zones. Following a barren coastal road, I pass by industrial buildings and the occasional Victorian boarding house converted into a business front and multiple dwellings. Seagulls perch on the window sills and gutters. In the spring, these gulls will nest close together along these surfaces, an annual ritual that leaves guano dripping down the building's windows. These droppings will whiten the pavement below and splatter all over the building's stoop. Eventually, I reach an empty, wide, and winding street that goes up to the top of cliffs. This is the historic High Street. It is on this stretch that I stumble upon what is now one of the most impoverished sections of town. Here, rows of abandoned, run-down, mean lodgings incongruously attached to splendid Georgian dwellings, vaping shops, kebab cafes, tattoo parlors, rough pubs, shabby newsagents, failed businesses, gift, antique, and betting shops line up and sulk on either side of the street. This assembled mélange of buildings is a testament to Lowestoft's early history. Here, too, is the imposing old town hall, built in 1857, but now, since 2015, boarded up and plastered with announcements of what is to come. One reads, "A multifunctional and inclusive center for the community and visitors." Such phrases don't tell much. The hall's stained glass windows depicting the Crimean War are now made invisible behind locked doors. I wonder if the curfew bell that used to sound at 8 in the evening is still in use. Being a Sunday, hardly a soul is in sight. I pass by the occasional drunk slouched in a corner, and further on meet 2 elderly sisters linked arm in arm, nostalgically retracing their childhood haunts. Once, they tell me, they happily used to live in this neighborhood and enjoy shopping on the street. They have subsequently moved a few miles from town. On my way up the high street, I am thankfully distracted by the sight of enclosed, narrow, cobbled lanes going down to the sea. These are the historical scores, unique to the Suffolk coast. They are believed to have ancient origins and to have been formed over many years by footsteps eroding paths into the soft cliffs sloping toward the sea. Until half a century ago, fishermen and smugglers had passed through these steep passageways to get down from the town to the shore. Currently, there are efforts to try and save these from disintegration and ruin. On my way up High Street, I walk by the entrance to Maltster's score. Looped electric wires dangle over its narrow, damaged bricked passage. In the 17th century, these paths had led to a beach village below, otherwise known as the town below the cliffs, that had been the residence for thousands of barrel makers, fish curers, net makers and menders who had lived in rows of crowded fishermen's cottages, surrounded by smokehouses and net yards. Cut off from the main town, this area had once had its own brewery, butcher, abattoir, barber, and even its own dialect. Many never left the surroundings. Over time, however, the place became unfit for human habitation. In the 1960s, an overdue slum clearance program demolished the entire community. Wanting to reach the shore and step away from the miserable neighborhood, I leave the winding road at the top of the cliff and walk down a sheer ravine via what probably had once been a scaur, now converted into a navigable path. In a few minutes, after walking through Bellevue Park and cutting across a vacant, bleak, concrete caravan lot, I reach a troubled, threatening sea. Why, I wonder, would anyone take a holiday here? For the inviting sandy beaches of yesterday's ramble are not to be found. Instead, a bleak, gnarled, rocky and ravaged seafront, tentatively protected by a tall, maimed sea wall, awaits me. I climb up a concrete ramp to reach a walkway where I meet a churning and angry sea that catches me with its salty spray. Thrilled by the wild sea's furor, I persist and carry on. It is here that I can more easily imagine the violence and fury of winter storms that wrecked many a ship. I am reminded of one particular tragedy on December the 18th, 1770, the very day that I am standing here, when 18 ships off this most easterly coast were caught by a wild wind that dismasted and broke the ship apart. In spite of clinging for several hours to the shattered masts and riggings, many desperate sailors drowned. So aggressive was the storm and the raging currents that the 8 or 10 men were not unfrequently seen to perish at a time. No lifeboat could reach them. Soon, defeated by wet and the wind, I climb back down and join a path that leads me to a road, not a vehicle on it, which I trust will take me back to the center of town. After passing by sunken plots of land scarred by fierce gales and North Sea floods, I come upon an extensive area of industrial development. Here resides the promise of Lowestoft's economic growth, though many complain that too much effort is spent on promoting industry and not enough on tourism. Being a Sunday, all is quiet and empty. With the exception of a policeman slowly driving by me in a patrol car, I see no one. First, I pass the modernized Bird's Eye factory. Its expansive complex of buildings and slender chimneys, protected behind iron gates and tall walls, sprawl over much of the land. Across the way, at Ness Point, the most easterly site in England, large paved lots with warehouses, modern office buildings, cranes, and sheds surround Gulliver, so named by the locals, a gigantic 413-foot, three-blade wind turbine. Completed in January 2008, this iconic structure sits on a seawall and, when it works, benefits from the winds whipping in off the North Sea. The goal is to make Lowestoft a leader in renewable energy. However, while I am here, all is still. The turbine is temporarily not working. The daily newspaper explains that the company is waiting for spare parts to arrive. Officials rationalize. We are working hard behind the scenes to get it back in action as soon as possible. After scrambling through a jumble of empty lots and cracked driveways, I find my way to the street that leads me back up to the swing bridge. I stand in line behind a number of silent pedestrians patiently waiting to cross. The bell clangs. The barriers go up, and we obediently traverse the shipping canal. What a relief it is to reach the other side of Lowestoft and be separated from the harsh, intrusive industrial site. It is as if the town suffers from a split personality. Now I can once more gaze at the uncluttered beaches as well as at the tidal waves crashing on shore. The darkness of the winter afternoon is fast descending. Before it is too late, I collect my belongings and walk to the train station. Yet another damaged relic of a once thriving era. This time, though, I don't get lost.